There are people in this world who don't just walk beside the dying. They listen to them. They learn from them. And sometimes they come back with messages. This is the story of one woman who sat at the edge of life again and again, and what she heard might change the way you see death forever. Her name was Joy Ufema. Joy didn't set out to become a pioneer in death. She became a nurse to help people live. But one night, early in her career, everything changed. A dying man clutched her hand, his breathing shallow, his voice just a whisper. "Do you see them?" he asked. "They're here for me." Joy looked around the room. There was no one there, but in his eyes, she saw truth, peace, and a kind of wonder she couldn't explain. That moment lit a fire inside her. What if death isn't something to fear, but something to understand? Joy began listening more closely. She stopped rushing between patients. She stayed. She sat. She held hands. And she asked questions no one else dared to ask. What do you feel? What do you see? Are you afraid? Again and again, she heard the same kinds of answers. "There's a light. I can hear music. My mother is here. She's waiting for me. They told me it's not time yet." These weren't just stories from the deeply religious. They came from atheists, children, soldiers, skeptics. The details varied, but the themes, they were almost always the same. Joy wasn't just witnessing death. She was witnessing something else, something deeper, something sacred. Let me tell you about Susan, a patient Joy cared for in the final days of her cancer journey. Susan had been unconscious for nearly 36 hours. Her family gathered quietly around her bed. There were no machines, no monitors, just presence. Suddenly, Susan sat straight up, eyes wide open, a smile on her face, radiant. She looked toward the ceiling and said, "Oh, Daddy, you came for me." Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't from pain. They were joy. She laid back down, and within moments, she was gone. Joy wrote later that in that moment, the room changed. The energy shifted, as if something sacred had entered and gently taken her home. Not everyone believed Joy's experiences. She brought candles into hospital rooms. She let families cry, laugh, even play their loved ones' favorite music. She encouraged storytelling. She believed dying people needed freedom to express everything, especially the spiritual. To many in the medical field, this was too much, too emotional, too unscientific. Some called her a death witch. Others dismissed her entirely, but Joy kept going. She believed that death deserved the same dignity, beauty, and reverence we give to birth, and if she had to fight for that, she would. Then there was David, a young man dying of AIDS in the 1980s. He had been abandoned by his family, shunned by his church, alone, angry, afraid. Joy sat with him every day. She brought in art supplies, music, books of poetry. Slowly, David began to open. One night, shortly before he died, he whispered, "They're not angry anymore. They're waiting for me." Joy asked, "Who's waiting?" He smiled with tears in his eyes and said, "My mother, and a man I didn't recognize, but I think he's Jesus." His body was failing, but his spirit, it was becoming whole again, at peace, ready. David died not in fear, but in light. Over the years, Joy sat beside thousands of people as they transitioned, and the stories kept coming. A child said, "The angels are singing to me." A tough war veteran whispered, "She's here. My wife's here." Another said, "I'm not scared anymore. I know where I'm going." One of the most touching stories Joy Ufema shared was about a hospice patient named Evelyn, an 87-year-old woman with a heart full of memories and a room that always smelled of lavender. Evelyn was nearing the end of her life, but her deepest wish wasn't about comfort or pain relief. It was to write a final letter to her estranged daughter, whom she hadn't spoken to in over 20 years. Joy didn't write the letter for her. Instead, she did what great nurses do. She simply sat with Evelyn, day after day, offering presence, patience, and quiet strength. There were tears, stories, even laughter. And when Evelyn finally sealed that letter, she handed it to Joy with trust, asking her to make sure it was delivered after she passed. Evelyn died peacefully that night, her hand in Joy's. Weeks later, her daughter came back with tears in her eyes and healing in her heart. The letter had opened a door that grief and guilt had kept closed for years. That's the kind of impact Joy had, not just tending to physical needs, but walking beside people in their most vulnerable, human moments. With compassion, she helped people heal, not always in body, but in soul. Evelyn's story is just one of many that show how powerful a nurse's presence can be in the final chapters of life. Joy began to see patterns. Moments before death, many would look toward the ceiling. Their eyes would light up. They'd reach out, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, and then they would go, peacefully, as if walking into the arms of someone they loved. Joy didn't claim to have all the answers, but she knew what she witnessed, and it changed her. It made her believe that maybe, just maybe, we are never truly alone, even in our final moments. Joy trained hundreds of hospice workers, nurses, and caregivers. She gave them permission to care not just for the body, but for the soul. She spoke on television. She wrote books. She gave people language for the unspeakable and comfort in the unbearable. She asked questions we all carry, but rarely voice out loud. What if death isn't the end? What if something or someone is waiting for us? What if the dying are trying to tell us something? And what if we stopped being afraid long enough to listen? Joy Ufema passed away in 2021, but her legacy didn't die with her.
But Joy began to speak out.
Her words live on. Her lessons echo in hospice rooms, hospital beds, and grieving hearts. She taught the world that death isn't about letting go. It's about welcoming what comes next. So maybe when someone close to us takes their last breath, they aren't disappearing. Maybe they're just going home. And maybe they're not going alone. If you've ever lost someone, if you've ever sat in silence and felt something you couldn't explain, you're not imagining it. You're not crazy. You're not alone. You're standing at the threshold of something sacred, something mysterious, something beautiful. So the next time you hear a whisper in the quiet, the next time you dream of someone who's gone, or feel a warmth when there should be none, remember Joy's message. Death is not darkness. It is not emptiness. It is not the end. It is a doorway. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, you can hear it open. Thank you for watching. If you're intrigued by the mysteries of the mind, subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you.